Hello, this is Steve Ramona, your host for Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. I want to thank our sponsors, Infone, and with Infone, you can place your business on everybody's cell phone, turn their business into a web app, and with a click of a button, they'll have access to you 24/7. And also Pantheon.fm. Have you ever thought about monetizing and taking your podcast to the next level? Well, Pantheon can do that. Let us show you how. Reach out to Steve Ramona, the host, at infone.co/SR1, and I will go over with you how you can make your podcast really stand out. Let's enjoy the show. Thanks again, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. And this is your host, Steve Ramona. I'm excited. This guy's become a friend of mine, besides a business partner, somebody that really believes in serving, but really wants to change the world. And we need more people like him in this world. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Steve. I'm grateful to be on with you, my friend.
Big question. Why
Yeah.
change the world?
I have learned my entire life that if I didn't like the way things are going and there wasn't something out there that I could use right away, I'm going to create it myself. And I just seen too many divides here. And I know that together, again, with the servant's heart, like you talk about, but together, our authenticity and kindness, that's going to save the world. And I believe we need it. We need it.
Let's talk about that transition from healthcare to franchisor to where you are now, what those
Right.
lessons you learned.
Absolutely. I mean, when we are growing up, we're taught, and it's not malicious, we are taught that life is linear. We are taught from our parents, who were taught by their parents, who were taught by their parents, that if you do A, B, C, and D, E is going to happen. And it's with the best intention, right? The thing is, these narratives weren't adapted over time, and we weren't taught the lessons learned collectively from generations past. And so we also do that, born, crawl, walk, middle school, high school, college, whether it's grad school, a job, meet somebody, get married, have a kid, and recycle. And what wasn't taught to us, Steve, is that there's something's going to get in between one of those letters, and we're going to have to face that. And that's what wasn't taught in school. We really weren't taught financial literacy 101. We weren't taught how to face adversity. We weren't taught how to live the life you are meant to live as opposed to what others tell you. And so I realized, and I only realized a couple of years ago, that in the last 50 some odd years, I've been living a life that other people handed to me. So my belief system, really what was taught to me. And when I would get a pit in my stomach when I made a decision, I now know that was because that was my belief system. And I had a choice to make. Do I go with that or the easy route, which is what other people told me? And I used to go the easy route. It's a challenge. I'm not going with the easy route anymore, Steve. And it's a long time coming, but well worth it.
No, fantastic. To be comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable in business.
Yes.
And that's something that just is what it is.
Yeah.
We talk about mindset. You just got a certification. Congratulations on
Thank you, sir.
mindset.
Appreciate
Why
it.
is that a big skill set that you want to teach?
Well, I data to me in the proper context tells a story. And when I learned that the human brain has 70,000 thoughts per day come through it, and we only are aware of little less than 2% of those thoughts. So, 1% of 70,700, so you're talking about 1,400 thoughts of the 70,000 that we're conscious of. The rest are still in our brain, and they creep out, and our brain is inherently negative. And I realized that my mindset has been very negative throughout my life. And when I say negative, I mean a lot of regret for things that happened in the past. And that kept me in a depressive state for a long time. And then I'm like fearful of the future, and that puts me in an anxiety state. And when you're living both in the past and the future and not in the present moment, your mindset is all over the place. And I found myself just really doing things that I thought other people would want me to do. And I did not realize that 95% of our brain activity is unconscious. So there's 5% that's conscious, and I can control that 5% if I'm aware of it. And I hadn't been aware of it. Now I'm aware of it, Steve. So it's pretty powerful where you can really put your mind to creating your own reality in those 5% time. That can really then mold what you're doing automatically for, throughout your day. And that's why mindset's important to me, because too often we are just sleepwalking through life.
Yeah, a lot of people are, especially with COVID and everything that's happened.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your goal when you get a new client? What would be your goal for them?
Geez, it all starts where they are at. So I always assess their pain point. So with a few open-ended mindset questions, really, what are their fears with their mindset? What are their frustrations, and what are their challenges? And those three words, fear, frustration, and challenges, do elicit different responses. And usually I'll be able to peel back the onion and pinpoint what the issue is. I will address root causes, not symptoms. Symptoms are usually the first answers I'll get. And then when you continue to ask, why is that important? And you peel that back, you get to root cause. And very often it's we get in our own way, self-sabotage. And I want to help my clients understand where those blind spots are, because we all have blind spots. It comes from being unconsciously incompetent, which is you don't know what you don't know, right? And so I may be doing stuff throughout my life. Yeah, that blind spot when you're driving, you wonder why you keep hitting cars. It's like you don't adjust the mirror. Adjust the mirror so you see that coming and you won't go over to that lane. And that's really what it is. It starts with awareness. And once you're aware, then it turns to education. So I want to help my clients be aware of their blind spots, educate them why their blind spots are doing them more harm than good. And from there, you work on the guidance piece and the connection and the collaboration. So
I love that. That's so awesome. And it's simple but hard. It's one of those simple but hard things.
absolutely, absolutely.
What's the transformation this client's going to have?
Geez, I'd say my $1 million outcome is joy, reduced stress, and life fulfillment. And I truly believe people are looking for a fulfillment, whatever that means to them. And so once I can clarify from them by peeling back the onion how they're fulfilled and what creates joy, we can help shape their belief system. But I believe happiness is a formula. It's your standards plus your belief system equals happiness.
Right.
Comes from within,
How much is all this affected by your culture growing up with your parents and siblings?
Uh, I would say a lot of it. I mean, I look at the way generations grow. My parents came from the generation of saving money, and their parents were the immigrants coming in and working hard. And so I was taught a belief system of, and it's not a right or wrong, but it was, I would come home and with a cut knee, and what'd you do? I climbed the tree. Don't climb the tree. You're gonna get hurt. I'd never had a skateboard. I wasn't allowed to have even water guns because my mother was concerned about guns because her mother's brother was accidentally shot and killed because a loaded gun was in the closet at his uncle's store. So it's like the experiences that our generation and generation had, that will shape their belief system, and they will then teach that because they don't want it to happen. So it's a protection. Every parent protects their young, and it's because of the protection. I really hadn't been a risk taker my whole life, and I also learned that I thought my parents knew everything, and then you sometimes when you get older, your parents are smarter, and sometimes when you get older and have your own kids, you don't want to parent the way your parents did. So yeah, the culture, it did groom where I am right now. The beautiful part, though, I'm Syrian and Lebanese culture, and that's a lot of family and food, and so that my family is so important to me. And sometimes I go too far, though, that I don't have any personal boundaries that protects myself. So I will do everything for my family at my expense. And I'm learning now that just like when you're in an airplane, they say put the oxygen over your mouth first, because if you die, you can't help others. I am now starting to self-care and self-nurture so I can be the best person I can be, so I can help others do the same. So I don't know if that helps. But yeah, cultures and siblings, it does shape where you
It
are.
helps a lot. It's
Yeah.
I'm sure people can understand it, but we got to understand and be aware. And I think your awareness is another piece of what you do, which is
Yeah,
important. Once you know, you can do something about it.
absolutely.
Now, I love your moniker title, Chief Resilience Officer. Tell us about that.
Oh gosh, it was funny. I've always wanted to own my own company, and I never did, because my dad was with IBM for 35 years, Steve. And so I learned, was be loyal to your employer, they'll be loyal to you, stay, security, so I stayed. And there was a lot I went through, and I remember, I have a book out, and in the book I kind of write through stuff I did, and I look through how I did what I did. I established patterns, and I found out I was a people pleaser my whole life. But the interesting two pieces where I can go back to is, I remember the year 2000, after I was in healthcare, I left, and when I went into corporate, got let go from my job because it was a startup company that got saturated in the market, and I got let go. It was right before September 11th, 2001, right before September 11th. And when I was let go, my wife was relatively newly married, 2 years in. She was pregnant with our first child, and we owned a home. And now I was out of work, and in my life, I kind of based my self-worth and self-identity to my significant other and my employment. Well, now my employment was gone, so that was kind of it shook me. And the resilience piece was, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go back to healthcare, so I actually was going to try anything. I mean, I was looking into real estate. I got my substitute teaching degree and all that. And when 9/11 happened, when September 11th happened, and the towers hit, I went back to what I was comfortable with. I went back to healthcare. But at that point, I was close to 30 years old. I was 30 years, a little over 30 years old. And at that point, I believe a lot of men at 30 are thinking about, what do I do the rest of my life? So I was kind of torn. I ended up going back to healthcare because it was the safe bet for me, because I had come from there, and
Yep.
I was looking for some safety and security. So that was the first piece. And I didn't realize at the time how resilient I was. When it came to my second bout of resiliency, it was only 2015 it started, and really hit in 2018, 2019. And it was 2015 when I found out from my best friend my wife was leaving me. And that's another story why I found out that way. Point, though, is we went through mediation for 3 years because we didn't want to bring the kids to the court system, because the Jersey court system is not really friendly to like children and men. So with a mediator, you could actually make the decisions yourself. It took us 3 years because we wanted to do what was best for the kids.
Yeah.
During that time, though, Steve, and I always talk about setting and managing expectations. In my mind, I still had the expectation we could get back together, because I was Drew, Mr. Fix It, Mr. Please, and I could do it. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I mean, she had her mind set. I mean, she was already had a boyfriend, so it was done. The 3 years were torturous for me. When April of 2018 came, I got that piece of paper that I was divorced, from the courthouse. So there was your legal closure, and I was ready to start building my life up. And I threw myself a 50th birthday party in October of that year, so 6 months later. Didn't want to have self-pity, didn't want to live in blame and victim mindset like I had been. Best birthday party in my life. So many people showed up. It was great. It was also the last year I was working in healthcare, and at that same time, I had submitted a HIPAA violation because the manager in my department accidentally discarded some patient information. And I do the right thing all the time. So I reported it to the compliance officer, and 10 days later, I was fired from my job. And the manager who perpetrated it 7 weeks later was promoted to my position. So you think about the mindset at that point, do the right thing, right? Linear, A, B, C, D. And I did all the right stuff, I thought. Um, what I realize now is I was asked not to submit the violation, not totally, but at that time it was do a little more homework. Well, I had a pretty big ego at that time, and I did all the homework, and so I didn't listen to my boss. Well, I learned my lesson the hard way, and resilience has a lot to do with checking your ego at the door and living in a rational state rather than an emotional state. And so after that happened, I'm out of work, and again, my self-worth was based on my significant other and my job. Now I lost both, second time for the job thing. And 10 days later, my son had suicidal ideations. And it was his therapist who told us that the night before he was ready to make an attempt. And I was in the next room. And thank God his girlfriend was on the phone with him and talked him down. So that was now step 3. And I'm in full blame and victim mentality. It's the wife's fault for the divorce. It's my boss's fault for my firing. And now it's my fault for my kid in the next room doing that. And we were in the process of looking for some inpatient help for him, because we knew we didn't know what to do for him. And on my dad's birthday, we were at my dad's house, and he said to me he was proud of me. And I said, "Thanks, Dad. I know you're proud of me, but why are you telling me this now?" And he said, "I don't know how the hell you're doing it. First the divorce, then the job stuff, and now Nick. Yet you're still taking care of the other 2 kids, and you come here every day to check on your mom and me. I don't know how you're doing it." He said, "I know you always wanted to start your own company. I told you not to. Like I told you before." He says, "Do what's going to make you happy. Your mother and I will support you." So at 50 years old, I needed to hear that. So I remember kissing my dad on the forehead, healthy 80-year-old man. And let's fast forward now to, we finally were able to get a room for my son at this inpatient facility. It took them from October 29th to December 8th. So I was with my son for 40 days. I didn't sleep, making sure he was safe. We get up there on December 8th, which is now about 7 days after my dad's birthday. And as we're dropping my son off at the facility, my parents had come up with us. My son points to my dad and my mom and says, "I hope nothing happens to them while I'm here." And I reassured him, "Nothing's going to happen. Take care of your health." And fast forward to Christmas Eve of 2018, my dad, and it was the day before we were going to go visit my son, the whole family. My dad goes to the bathroom, sits on the toilet, strains, perforates his bowel, goes into septic shock. And 3 weeks later, my dad passes away in intensive care while my son's up where he is. And so now my son is blaming me and his mother because my son knew something was going to happen and we told him nothing. And it's our fault. He was up there and he couldn't do something about it. So with all of that, I didn't want to be on the earth anymore. And I outlined this in my book. And the reason I'm talking about my book is I started to tell my story to people after all this happened. And I started to heal from within because I realized after my dad went, I let my dream die of starting my own healthcare consulting company to fix healthcare. And I needed to look at my kids' eyes and my mother to give me purpose to continue to live, because I knew if I looked within, my head, my heart, and my gut would have told me to end it. So that's another, subconsciously, mindset was starting to be very important to me because I realized I needed outside help. Although, Steve, getting through that, I realized I did what society told me to do. Suck it up, man up, fix it. You can do it. You don't need help. Shunned my support systems. And I just plowed through saying, I'm going to help my kids and my mother. I got through it, not really healthy mentally and not empowered, certainly, as a man. And when I decided not to start my own healthcare consulting company, I got a cold call and they asked, "Do you want to buy a franchise?" And I don't pick up cold calls on my cell phone. This time I did for some reason. And B, it was the easy way because I didn't want to go back to healthcare. I was like, yeah, I'll buy a franchise. This way I get my own company. I never owned a company in my life before. And I didn't do the homework and research on how to really set yourself up for success. So I did the research with a franchise advisor, bought the franchise unrelated to healthcare. My goal, it was going to save companies money. It was business consulting, reducing their invoices and sharing in the savings. It's a great business model. It wasn't my passion. And, I started on that. And then the pandemic hit and I had to kind of shift. And now I'm questioning myself, why the hell did I do this? Because I made that decision out of emotion, not out of a rational ego state. Now I'm in this 10-year agreement I'm like, I got to make this work. During that time, virtually, networking, I met an editor, a book editor, and I always wanted to write a book. I just never had the content. Now I had the content, and I wanted to write a book on resiliency. And during this time, there was a transformation. And just like the editor told me, she said, you're going to start out, it'll be about resiliency. It'll end up being so much more and so different once we get to the end. She was right. We wrote the book via me telling my story out loud. So I'm hearing it and it's being recorded, and then we transcribe it. It's my words on paper through my mouth. And boy, I started to heal from within just hearing that. And I started to think that I didn't heal during the time when all that's happened with my family and job and all that stuff. And I'm starting to heal from within, and I'm starting to tell my story. And these other guys and women too start to tell me their story. And people are telling me that I'm able to break down walls. And these are strangers who I just met virtually. And now they're telling me their story, and they're telling me they're feeling better. Lights started to go off. And one morning, August of last year, so about a year ago, I wake up Saturday morning and I'm like, oh my God, I know my purpose. It was so clear, Steve, that I am supposed to help men start telling their story and to start releasing these inner toxins that we're told to suppress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I walked away from the franchise. I breached the 10-year contract. I had talked to a lot of franchisees who had left. And thankfully, the franchisor said they respected me so much and my story and what I'm going through, they weren't going to make an issue out of it. And about a week later, I started a men's support group, not knowing what that meant. I created it in what Drew needed. And when I realized I created it because of what I needed and the membership wasn't growing, I put a pause on it. And I started to interview men and ask them about their current mindset, so I could establish what their pain points are. And so I could do what I'm doing now, addressing their pain point, because ultimately it's going to be my pain point too.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose Chief Resilience Officer, because we have a choice. We could retreat from our challenges, or we could consider them a gift wrapped in sandpaper, and something, why this is wrapped in, this can't be a gift. It's wrapped in this ugly sand. Well, more often than not, a crappy situation turns out to be the best gift given to you if you're aware that it potentially could be a gift.
That's the big thing, is awareness.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have that awareness.
Yeah. So
that's very good. I love that.
Yeah.
And I love your story. Thank you for sharing it.
You're welcome.
It gives people perspective.
Mhm.
Let's do a shout out. We're running out a little bit of time here on the end. How can people reach out to you if they got questions about resiliency, your story, how you can help them?
Yeah, I'd say probably the best way. I host a webinar once a month, and the webinar is called "Get Over Yourself: How to Use the Caveman Formula to Overcome Self-Sabotage." It's free. I do it once a month. That's how you'll get to know me to start. So, I can give you the. You want to just put it in the show notes? We'll put it in the show notes.
I'll put it in the show
I mean,
notes.
basically, they can first go to my website at Drew at Profit. It's www.profitcompassion.com. And you can sign up for the webinar on that. That's probably a good way. But in the show notes, I'll give you the link to directly register. I share a few of the steps to how I shifted my mindset from a fixed to a growth mindset. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, let's get you on there. I'm going to first 30 people that, not 30, first 3 people that reach out to you, I'm going to give them a $20 Amazon gift card.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks, Steve.
So reach out to him, learn about the workshop. I've heard stories. It's great. It's free. Mm-hmm. Learn about Drew, and let's heal each other together.
Yes.
With that. And just mention to Drew that you mentioned this podcast, my name, or the name of the podcast that you heard him on, and he'll send me your information. I'll send you a $20 Amazon gift card. I just sent 3 Monday. So I'd love to help, because you can see Drew's been through a lot. And experience is the best teacher. And you're looking at the best teacher right here. So with that being said, thank you for being on. I'm bringing you back for part 2, because there's a lot more we can cover, like uniting men and women. I want to talk about that.
Absolutely.
But one last favor, if you can leave my audience with another tip that's helped you through this resilience and your incredible story to get you where you are today that can help them.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say this because I really care about you guys out there, even though I don't know you. Please choose to write your own story instead of leaving it to others to write it for you, because if you leave it to others, they will write it for you and it won't be your story. And you have a choice. So, and if you need my help, I'll guide you wherever you want to be guided.